This episode of Cinema Shame has been brought to you by Hedy Lamar's O-Face. Hedy Lamar's O-Face, because you'll never have a better reason to watch a movie from 1933.
No matter what you think you've seen, you'll find it's not enough. No matter what you think you know.
This is the Cinema Shame podcast, where someone at our virtual table hasn't seen a movie they really probably should have seen by now. Allan and I confess our sins, right our wrongs, and invite smarter people into the conversation to share their wisdom and taste. Our guest tonight is just such an expert. Danny Reid, aka Precode.com, is the co-author with Kim Luperi of the recently released Precode Essentials, must-see cinema from Hollywood's untamed era. He began writing about Precode cinema for his website in 2011. He then launched Precode.com with Sight and Sound magazine called Invaluable. And I have to agree, because whenever I watch another Precode, I immediately check to see if Danny's reviewed it, and he always has, because I'm probably just a basic Precode bitch. I met Danny for the first time, I believe, at my first TCM Film Festival when I was the bondage guy from Twitter, and he was the Precode guy from Twitter, and I'm proud to say that we've since started using each other's first names. The last time Danny came on the podcast, I refused to let him talk about Precode cinema, so this will be a nice change for him. And I'm going to start this off by saying your bio told me that you watched The Divorcee, and that's what got you hooked on Precode cinema. So why Precode, and what sent you down this 15-year-old journey?
Yeah, Precode. So it kind of started with, Precode's been around since the terminology has been around since the 1990s, 1980s. I kind of came upon it in the early 2000s, and it just piqued my interest because it was something, as a movie buff, something I hadn't really heard a lot about. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff online about it, which was also very interesting at the time. Like, there's one other blog that was dedicated to just exploring that era. And Precode wasn't like a popular term. Like nowadays, you go on Criterion Channel, they have the T-shirt with Precode on it. You wouldn't have really found that. That was more of like a niche thing back then. But Warner's just started releasing their Forbidden Hollywoods they had on Laserdisc before, but they just started releasing them on DVDs. But The Divorcee, Norma Shearer in that film, and the way that they shoot Norma Shearer is just so exciting and dynamic, right? The way that she just goes from this like kind of jovial, playful woman, happy to be a wife, to woman of the world, explorer, willing to try all these new things. It was just a very dynamic movie. It's something I hadn't really seen before. I'd watched a lot of classic films. So that kind of led me to Red-Headed Woman, which is absolutely insane. And then obviously I kept going down that path. And as I went down that path, I was like, really like, I was always a huge fan of like the Wikipedia idea of a blog, where you're creating all these hyperlinks, you're building something interconnected and beautiful where people can explore and discover. And I mean, a lot's changed over the 10 years. Mine looked positively prehistoric at this point. But that idea that if you go to my site and I'm like writing about Joan Blondell, I say, this is my favorite Joan Blondell movie. You can see, well, what's my second favorite Joan Blondell movie? And you can look it up and find it out. Because Wikipedia is great. Back then it was not as good as it is now, but there's just, those little ecosystems where you can explore and discover this era really helps for something that's so, the past is a foreign country. There's so much that people don't understand. If you can get people into that ecosystem where they start to understand, okay, this is why when the guy in Miracle Woman gives the door the middle finger, it's so shocking, or, this is related to when they do in the Lost Squadron, or, there's so many connections. It's just a lot of fun to be able to pull all that stuff together and kind of get to experience that era in a special way, where you're experiencing it kind of the way that they did, which is, difficult nowadays.
There's like a whole movie quality to Precode, because it feels like you're watching like the real 1930s as opposed to the sanitized version. Like technically Precode could technically just be a date, but it's actually a vibe. Like there are movies that are technically that are within the Precode era that aren't Precode at all, because they don't feel like that way. Like in my head, like the difference is Todd Browning's Dracula, not Precode. But the Spanish language Dracula made at the exact same time. Precode.
Sure. And I mean, that's kind of the argument you make, is that it's more of a genre than a time period. It's more of like it's more of like what film noir is, because
Yeah.
I always had this debate with other people who write about pre-code, because they're like, would you really consider Little Women pre-code? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, Joan Bennett's kind of saucy in it. And they're like, come on, Danny. Um, so but to be frank, and that's why we wrote the book too, is like, there is a lot. Like, it's not just like an isolated, so it's not like
Oh
one or
yeah.
two weird movies. It's a whole, that whole era. And that's why we did it chronologically too, is you can follow along, see how the movies evolved, see how things changed, see where ideas were happening, where there's synchronicity, where, they said, the guys at Warner said, oh, they made Redheaded Woman. Well, we'll make Babyface and we'll see how this happens. And there's a lot of things playing off each other. And that's what's really exciting and dynamic, is the movies were coming out so fast, and they were the most like, they're so vibrant back then. Whereas today, like, God bless them, they just very rarely feel that way.
My first exposure really to the idea of pre-code cinema was also the original sets that were released. And that was really the first time I started to put together what pre-code was and why it was different and not just a date on a calendar. Even then, I wasn't prepared for what happens at the TCM Film Festival for pre-code cinema, because I'm like, yes, these are a certain type of movie, but you go to the film festival and there's a cult of pre-code at the film festival. Because I think looking back, we're watching like a bubble called old movies.
Mm-hmm.
And in that old movie bubble, you're not taking into consideration the differences between 1932 and 1937. But when you watch a number in a row, if you read through your book, if you go to the TCM Film Festival and sit down and plan your entire schedule around seeing pre-code, because that's what you have to do sometimes to make sure you can actually get into the screenings, you'll start to pick up on why it's this special type of quote unquote old movie, and plays much like a much more modern film than I think the average viewer is really going to pick up on.
Say this year, TCM, they did a big premiere at the festival for Letty Linton, which had been available like in muddy prints. I'd seen a muddy print of it years ago, but this was like the big deal. Come to the festival, you're the first people who've seen it exhibited in a theater in 90 years. And going there, I watched it. I was like, this is good. This is like pretty much what I'm used to. And then talking to people afterwards who had gone because of the event, not necessarily because they knew it was a pre-code, was a very interesting experience, because they were just like bowled over that you could show some of that stuff, or that she got away with the murder, or like the whole, kind of Columbo-y ending to it all. It's just like,
Yeah.
me, I was like, oh yeah, she's going to be fine. But for a lot of the audience, they were just shocked by it. And for me, it's very interesting. And I agree with what you said. I was watching a movie the other night. I was looking at it, I'm like, this is 1938, isn't it? Like, it's just like
Yeah.
almost like, it's less racist than I would expect for a mid-30s movie, but it's like definitely not pre-code. I was on the dot, so I was very proud of myself. But you're right. Like, old movies, when you first start learning about it, it's just all these old movies are black and white, and then might eventually be like, okay, these are film noir, or these are World War II movies. And then you keep diving and learning and learning. And there's so many interesting things and so many interesting niches within all of that. So, yeah.
For me, my introduction was actually before, like talking about Danny was talking about how pre-code like is sort of this sort of fairly new term. And I don't even know if it was a use of this point, but I specifically remember watching Entertainment Tonight and Leonard Maltin doing a segment about sort of the lost scenes from Tarzan and his mate and how they had been restored. And as a kid who was like loved movies, it was sort of like a revelation that there was a specific period in that era of movie history where you could see the good stuff, where they did actually put it in the movies. And it wasn't until like, a couple of years later that, the Hays Code like brought the hammer down and all of that ended.
Yeah. And that's what's also interesting about this. It's so hard for people to relate to, isn't just that these movies were so free and carefree, but then when they re-released them, they would edit them, or these movies would be put in a vault for 70, 55, 70, 90 years. So when people were first writing the history of old movies too, a lot of films like Babyface were just, destroyed. Stuff like So This Is Africa wasn't available. And that's what's always exciting about living in the now, is that we get to experience all these movies. We get to see all this at once, and you can really draw all these parallels that were hidden for decades. So
I love how they sort of like like I said about the home movie quality, but just sort of they just take away the lie that sort of the Hays Code created. Like so much of like what we're experiencing now is based on people looking at movies from the 1950s and thinking that was the 1950s, when
Yeah.
in reality that was the studio version of the 1950s, which bore little to no like relation to what was actually happening in the world at that time. And so like watching these like movies from this basically like 5 year span or so, from the set, like from basically the Jazz Singer to, the creation of the Hays Code, it really does feel like, oh, there was like a time where these filmmakers were able to put real life on screen until finally, mostly because of these movies, like this, like the censorious people in the world were like, well, no, you have to put a stop to that.
So I guess we should present the theme of this, which is that Allan picked 4 movies he hadn't seen from the pre-code era. Two of them are in the book, right? Or 3 of them.
Sign of the Crosses, Baby Faces. What are the other? Ecstasy is not.
Ecstasy is not, but Tarzan is.
Yeah, we're talking the first Tarzan or Tarzan.
Tarzan in his Bay.
Tarzan. Obviously, we're going to start with the one that isn't in the book. And Allan had a very specific reason for picking this one. It is well known for, I guess, we have one thing. We'll say it's well known for one thing, in that it's really Hedy Lamar's orgasm is what we're talking about here. And that movie is Ecstasy from 1933, directed by Gustav Machadi. How do you? I'm not. No one has ever said that name to me, so I am reading it and going, I don't know.
It could be Machedi. It could be,
It could be a lot of things as I thought about it, but that is what I'm going to go with because I've got nothing else to do. Looking at his credits, he doesn't have a lot going on. So he directed a few movies and that was a cute career. But he apprenticed under D.W. Griffith and Erich von Stroheim and won Best Director at the 1934 Venice Film Festival for Ecstasy. So he's not just a guy who made 2 horny movies and then kind of disappeared into the European night. I mean, I knew about Ecstasy only because of what I said before, and that, it's got some nudity and an orgasm. I had never sought it out. So I do thank Allan for bringing this up as one of his must-watches for this episode.
Well, I got to say that I'm a huge Hedy Lamarr fan, but I say that having seen very few of her movies because I love her as a person. And I know how much she actually wasn't really a fan of that aspect of her life. Like she felt like her famous line was, "It's easy to look glamorous. All you have to do is stand still and look stupid." And so like she kind of like, she did it because that was the job that paid. But if she had lived in a world that allowed her to exist as she wanted to, she would have been a scientist. She would have been in STEM. She would have created stuff. But because she looked the way she did and she lived in the world she lived in, she basically had no choice but to be a movie star. And when you look at, like, it was funny because I watched Ecstasy, which was her first film, which she was like made when she was still a teenager. She was still credited as Heidi Kiesler. She wasn't Hedy Lamarr yet. You can definitely, like, she's a gorgeous young woman, but you don't see a movie star yet. So, like, literally that same day that I watched Ecstasy, I watched a movie she made 9 years later. And all of a sudden you see, like, one of the most movie stars who ever movie starred. And so, like, that was sort of fascinating watching this early film of hers, is just sort of seeing a baby version of what she would become, but also, like, seeing it in a context where, this is like 90 years later, almost nearly 100 years later, it's a genuinely hot movie. Like it's not holding anything back. Like it could have played on Skinamax, in 1987. Like this is not something that where you go like, it's an erotic movie, but it's like the 1930s, so it's not really that erotic. And it's like, it goes there. It goes that hard.
But I will say that in watching some of the film, I was reminded of Passion of Joan of Arc.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got both angles coming in here. We've got
I was
Skinamax.
convinced that I was wrong the whole because I in my head like I've read all these books about her. I've seen like clips from it. I was sure that it was a sound movie, and then no one says a fucking word for the 17 minutes of the movie, and I'm like, wait, is this silent? And it definitely like it's interesting because it definitely feels like one of those movies where like they're still like not sure what to do with sound, but then when it does
Mm.
use sound, it does it in incredibly inventive ways where the sound really has an impact. So at no point did I feel like it was like, well, this is clearly just like a silent movie, and then they shot a couple of like sound scenes to throw in there just because even in the silent scenes, the way sound is used, it's deliberate and it wouldn't make sense if that wasn't there.
Yeah, I was asking for the first minutes of the movie whether it was a like technical limitation or budgetary limitation. Some of it was filmed in silent era and held back, and then it's like you get to a certain point, no, this is a definitive creative decision made by the director.
Mm.
So yeah,
I do
the
have
so
to ask. This one didn't make the book, and was it because you didn't want to talk about the orgasm in print? Like you just didn't...
I assumed it was
Uh,
because it's foreign.
yeah, it's foreign. Our book covers Hollywood movies. This one is what, Czech? I
Oh,
mean,
that's
it's
true.
Yes.
like
Yeah.
German, French, Czech. I was watching it. I was watching it last night, and the version on archive.org was German, which I did not realize until 20 minutes in. And I was like, okay, well, I know a little bit of German. I managed to figure it out, but it was still, I mean, it's an interesting film. Like you said, it definitely Europe at the time was definitely behind on sound technology, so it makes sense they probably to save money shot as much of it silent as they could. But also, it does work as a creative decision. The film itself is kind of like a parable of like old money versus young hot socialism, which is very timely for Europe in 1933, 32 era. Um, but I'll be honest, it's not. It was fine. Like I get like obviously the idea of seeing the female orgasm on screen, this experience of love and passion and lovemaking. It's very intense and it's very unusual. Obviously, for even today, you wouldn't see stuff like this.
Yeah.
So it was
It
okay.
does. I will say it does lose steam after the steam. Like I feel like
Mhm.
once Hetty comes, then it sort of then it sort of it cuts to like her lover sort of inadvertently running into her ex-husband without knowing he's her ex-husband, and that sort of sets the course of the movie from there. And I felt like every moment where she wasn't on screen, I was like, well, why am I watching this? Like I
Yeah.
want to see her. This
And
movie is about her.
it's not just the that we're missing Hetty or it's a post climax situation and we just need to get out of there. There's really interesting textures through the first like
Yeah.
half of the film. There's some interesting camera work and in camera effects. And then we get to this, I guess it's the conflict of the film at this point, and it loses the texture, it loses the eroticism, it loses I mean, even the humor that was tucked into the majority of that silent section where we're watching the mannerisms, we're watching her expectations, and there is a tiny bit of like slapstick kind of mentality without, clappers going on here. It's very slight, but there's a little bit of that there, and then it just kind
Well,
of
I mean,
stops.
you could argue that like one of the other films we're going to discuss, Tarzan and His Mate, steals a bit from Ecstasy, which is when Cheetah steals Jane's clothes. Because in this one, a horse steals Hetty's clothes, and the difference is we see a lot more of Hetty than we see of Maureen
But then the
O'Sullivan.
horse goes to tell his horse friend about naked Hetty.
Yeah.
Like immediately runs over and is like, "You won't believe it."
Yeah. Made a mistake trusting Mr. Ed there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I wouldn't say this is like this is a film everyone needs to see, but having seen it, like I understood why it like made like was such a controversial and sort of successful film when it first came out, and I can also see why like her her husband, who she married after this, was so incensed by his existence that he spent like the equivalent of something like $5 million trying to buy every print of it so he could like basically take it out of existence, not realizing that the people who were selling him the prints were just printing new ones, so they would always have something to sell him. So if anything, he ensured that the movie would survive.
Smart way to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah, the European films always were more comfortable with nudity, and that's obviously still true today.
Yeah.
It is, I mean, for modern audiences, it is shocking to see just how far sexually the film goes, I think.
Mhm.
But
I
yeah,
will say the like talking about the socialist aspect of it, that like ending like montage of the workers doing their working things, I laughed out loud. Like that was just that was like I was really enjoying the movie and taking it seriously, and then it just hit that wall, and I was sort of like, dude, like that could have been edited out. Like I know that was probably the most important thing to him, and that's why he
yeah.
made the movie, but I still feel like, and today that's the only thing that didn't age well, even though it probably would resonate with a lot of people today.
He could have had two reasons to make the movie. Let's be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But that's also like this era. The films are very nakedly political. This is the Great
Yeah,
Depression. This is the era of I'm a fugitive from a chain gang, where Mervyn LeRoy gets threatened.
yeah.
If you ever show up in Georgia, we'll shoot you. So it's not unheard of, especially in Europe, where obviously there's even greater turmoil than the United States politically, for stuff like this to be showing up on
Mhm.
screen. And then just the very like, especially post World War One, where there was so much
Yeah.
anger towards like ruling classes and stuff too. So
I mean, that ex-husband I was talking about was literally a Nazi arms manufacturer. So that was sort of the world like that she was living in at the time.
There was some talk when I was researching the film that Lamar claimed to be tricked into the nude scenes, and that they said that, oh, you'll be far away, that nothing will be seen, and that she claims they then just use really long lenses to get a better shot, which I thought was just funny, like face value. Oh, they just use a longer lens, so it was perfectly fine. But
very Three
people on
Stooges
set,
solution. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, people on set and the cinematographer claimed that she knew all along, and that was a way to try and put a bandage over that part of her career. Should people inquire? The quote I wrote down was from Joseph Breen, who called the movie highly, even dangerously indecent. But Breen then later hired the director when he was working at RKO, so couldn't have been that bad.
Yeah, I mean that movie is what got Hedy Lamarr her American career too. I know that
Yeah.
if Louis B. Mayer saw it, and I
Mhm.
have seen several of Lamar's later films. I can't say I'm a huge fan, but her legend is very interesting. So I'm not going to begrudge anybody.
Yeah,
And
no, she
obviously,
wasn't.
this is very unique. Yeah,
I wouldn't say she was a great actor, but in terms of presence, like you just look at her and like at the time when she basically got off the boat in Hollywood because there had been a period where like after Ecstasy was made where she was basically a kept woman by Mandy, and then she escaped from him and escaped to the United States. Like she was immediately like basically the MGM like immediately picked her up, and they build her as the most beautiful woman in the world. And just watching some of her early films, it's like, yeah, no, that's fair. Like it's not like a like, oh, that's an overhyped sort of thing. Like you see her and go, yeah, no, I could totally see that.
and the people who would have seen Ecstasy in the United States would have been fairly few. It'd probably been like maybe some big cities.
Yeah.
Uh, Very much still have to be kind of underground because I know even New York City had like a crazy censorship
Yeah.
board. So
Well,
yeah,
and that's
But
why I think they felt comfortable
it
changing her name.
it did play in New York. It was Pennsylvania, I think, outlawed it entirely. It only played in a couple states, as far as I could tell,
yeah.
and even then, only in the independent theaters, which I don't know how many there were at the time either. So
Yeah.
okay, and speaking of nudity, I think this is the segue into Tarzan and His Mate from 1934, which apparently was the impetus for this entire episode. And based on Alan's story earlier, is the ultimate sin of shame because he learned about a Tarzan movie with naked swimming and then was like, let's wait 30 years to watch it.
Tarzan. Those are clothes. Women wear them because they think men are like them. Love,
My wife. My wife.
Ah, Tarzan.
More like 40, because I first read about this in Danny Perry's Cult Movies. I think probably the print Perry would have seen would have been the censored print. So that's why he didn't mention it. Sort of like the reason why it resonated in my memory is because after reading about it in Danny Perry's book, then I saw Leonard Maltin talking about it. And I was like, oh, maybe that's why it was a cult film. And sort of the idea that, it wasn't more just of like Maureen O'Sullivan, because in Danny Perry's review, which I reread before before I watched this, like it's basically more about how she's in the loincloth and like she has like sort of the top that sort of just barely covers her breasts. But then it turns out in like sort of the official released version from like that year, you saw a lot more than that.
Well, that's the interesting thing is censorship had been such an issue. So what would happen is studios would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a movie. They send it out to the states, and each state, because films weren't considered free speech until the 1940s or 30s or 40s, later on, they could be censored however the state saw fit. So they have censorship boards. They come back and say, you can't have this, you can't have that, you can't have this. And the studios would have to pay to recut those and reprint all of them. So it was super expensive. And that's kind of why this whole it's another big portion of why the Hays Code came into effect as a way to try and save money for all the producers. So what Irving Thalberg and MGM decided to do was to shoot 3 different versions of the swim, right? And say, okay, this state is more permissive. She'll be naked in this one. This state's kind of borderline. She can just be topless in this one. This one, she's got to be fully clothed or whatever. And it's absolutely like, if you're in a moral organization and you realize they're sending the nude prints to other states and you guys aren't getting the good stuff, or you're like, my state, it's just like psychologically, you understand why somebody was like, this has to stop, because obviously the next step is this state gets sex scenes. This state gets, it's placating certain bases, it's placating certain states, and it just becomes expensive for the studios still. And then also just becomes very dangerous in terms of your country as a unified being. Because if Kansas can't see nudity and everybody in California is losing their minds, like what's going on in your country? I don't know.
That said, even like years later, all of Lena Horne's movies had to be made so she could be edited out of them so they could play in southern states.
Yeah. There's a lot of history, and that's what's also interesting about learning all about old movies is just how key exhibition is and pressures. And a lot of the stuff that's happening here is a combination of the federal government showing up and saying, we're going to censor all the movies if you guys don't watch it. It's different state boards. It's Joseph Breen taking over the very ineffectual SRC and saying, okay, we're actually going to start enforcing this stuff because he had his own agenda. He was working with Legion of Decency. There's a lot of really interesting players and things happening at this time. This really kind of leading to this July 1st, 1934 inflection point where they say, okay, after this point, we are making moral movies, and every single movie being made, it's going out of Hollywood and going into these theaters has to obey these certain guidelines. And it's this one man's interpretation of these guidelines. Mm-hmm. So Tarzan is made as interesting because they did future proof it essentially. Like you could still see Tarzan is made in 1937 or whatever, but that wasn't true with other movies from 32, 33, 34, where they were, in the middle of the Depression, they're going all in on sin, trying to get people in the seats no matter what. We're gonna have Busby Berkeley, tons of naked women behind curtains dancing around stuff. So,
and honestly,
you wrote in the book that comedies and adventure films were still filled with ribald humor and an unrestrained eroticism, but other genres had been policed out. Why did comedies and adventure films still survive this culling?
I think it kind of depends on who was doing somewhat to an extent. I think adventure films, when you're using enough violence, Breen didn't have as negative a view on violence as many other people at the time did. So you had more of an emphasis on that. If you can't get them in the seats with, sexiness or lewdness, you can get them in the seats with machine guns to an extent. Like the crime can't pay. Crime can't pay for essentially 2 decades after this. But and then comedies to an extent can also be subtle. You can do wisecracks very quickly, but there's a vast difference between the Marx Brothers films made in 1930 through 34, up to Duck Soup and, the ones they made at MGM. And you can see that. You watch them and you see that. And while they could still be suggestive, they couldn't be anarchic, if that makes sense. Like there's, once you get to A Night at the Opera, there's the young lovers that they're working together with to get them, help them fall in love. And that's what happens in basically all of their MGM movies is the Marx Brothers are side characters. They're not trying to destroy the system from within. Which is a very political difference in comedy. But a lot of people, if you're watching them, might not pick up on that. And then I think in terms of like, you watch some of these films, like I've been thinking a lot recently about Easy to Love from 1934, which is like this weird four-way love triangle with Edward Everett Horton and Genevieve Tobin's in it. She's one of my favorite actresses. And there's one point where her husband and her are fighting and she's taking a bath and she invites him in so they can argue more. And she starts like showing off in front of him just to completely confuse him, and he loses his train of thought completely. And obviously you're not going to get that in 35. Like that's not going to happen. Wife's not going to be shaking her goods at her husband just to completely mess him up, but they still would have like love triangle comedies. They're just going to be a little more safer, a little more sanitized. It's degrees to an extent.
Yeah. Well, and Preston Sturges got away with a lot. Like they're like Miracle at Morgan's Creek. Like you wonder how that got passed. Like
I have no idea. Yeah, and there's always been this argument made as well that the Hays Code did make directors have to be more creative with the way that they portrayed sin and they did this stuff. And I think, so you could say like, okay, Billy Wilder and so, they came up with clever ideas, but they still had to tap dance,
I've always thought that was a rationalization. It was basically people who made films in that time going like, no, our movies were really good too, because like, even though we had all these restrictions, we had to be clever to move beyond them. And my take is always like, I would love to see what Billy Wilder could do in his prime when he wasn't restricted, because he basically lost those restrictions when he kind of was starting to lose his touch a bit. But even like I recently for the show, I rewatched Kiss Me Stupid, which for years I had read about and heard about like what a terrible movie it was. And I absolutely loved it. So if we could see like, that era of him, it went like in the 40s, that would have been amazing.
But is that like George Lucas getting CGI? Like there's a line. Would that be Billy Wilder? I don't have the answer.
And I agree to an extent where I think that the people who say like movies had to be clever, they're thinking of like 4 or 5 movies. Yeah, like most movies were like Julie in San Antonio or something. They're just garbage. Yeah. Like no offense. Like, I'm thinking of a specific movie, but I don't remember the name of it. But it's like whatever these movies that MGM was just pumping out.
Tammy and the Doctor.
These musicals. Yeah, Athena, the musical. This stuff. There's just a ton of garbage. Like, stuff that just isn't very exciting or interesting, and wasn't clever. So yeah, I it's just like that's the argument that's made. I don't necessarily agree with it, but yeah.
But speaking, he's saying like about Breen being not bothered with violence. Well, the only like moment that actually shocked me in Tarzan and his mate is one of the acts of violence, and that's a scene where one of the like ivory hunters like plunges a knife into the chest of a tribesman, which to me was like something like out of like Lucian Angelou. Like it was like it was a blink you miss it sort of thing. But like for that era movie to actually see like a knife like enter the body was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Did you watch this before or after Sign of the Cross? I'm just curious.
There's definitely more blood in Pre-Code. Not entirely related. I recently showed my kid Stagecoach. My daughter got really into the TCM's John Ford podcast. She really got into it. She's 10. and she really wanted to watch one of his movies. And I'm like, I don't remember there being any blood at all in Stagecoach. Like, it's 1939. How bad could it be? And for the most part, they did not. I mean, we kind of danced around what one of the woman's professions was, but we got to the scene where Donald Meek gets it in the chest from an arrow, and my daughter just loses her mind, starts screaming, throwing things. My son was watching too. He's like, promise there'd be no blood. So my kids were made for watching green code movies, golden age stuff, but sometimes it's not even perfect for them.
But also the thing that the reason why I think everyone listening to this who hasn't seen Tarzan and his mate should actually seek it out is that it's a genuinely good adventure movie. And I especially like the fact that it's more about and his mate than it is about Tarzan.
Yeah, I don't really like it. It's not my favorite. I think the first Tarzan with Weissmuller is a lot more moody and seductive. Tarzan and his mate was kind of a mess. They had 3-4 directors on it. It's in my book. I don't remember. It's an interesting film. I just think that they were trying to do a lot with it, and I always feel like it kind of goes off in too many directions. I think the first one's really good, and then after that one's when they definitely become like the Tarzan family fun hour films. Which the one where he goes to New York is fun.
The Thin Man in the Jungle, basically.
Yeah, not quite as verbose, but yeah.
I kind of like that this is a chaotic mess. You can see that it's ideas stitched together for public consumption, and I don't know. I was enjoying that angle to it, and like you say, Cheetah's an asshole, and that's just always funny.
But I think like in terms of the actual action set pieces, it is really impressive. Like, you can quibble with sort of the plot and where it moves here and there, but I think in terms of actually what you see on screen, it still works today. Like, a lot of the shots are just sort of how did they do that? Or someone got hurt doing that.
And it played like gangbusters at TCM. I mean, everybody was talking about Tarzan and his mate at the film festival that year. Everybody.
Yeah. I was there. I saw that one. Yeah.
All right. Have we done Tarzan and his mate? Is it time to move on to the movie that broke the code open?
Talking about Babyface?
Babyface from 1933, directed by Alfred E. Green.
You haul your freight out of here.
What's the matter? You getting particular?
Maybe I am. Did you ever take a good look at yourself?
Yeah, you're exclusive, you are. The sweetheart of the night shift. Come on, you're wasting my time. Everybody knows about you.
Yeah? Well, you ain't going to...
And I wrote down a quote from the book for this one, because I thought it was a good place to start. It said, the studios, perhaps more than ever, were willing to push their luck with racy films during some of the Depression's darkest days, but censor boards and religious groups were pushing back. So this is where everyone has drawn the line in the sand, and it has crossed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Babyface, for anyone who doesn't know, this is Barbara Stanwyck had become a star in 31 with 31 with Ladies of Leisure for Frank Capra. So she'd been in a couple of very popular Depression era films. She was a very hard bitten kind of for this time of the Depression, somebody that women could sympathize with. She had a really hard exterior, but it's very soft underneath. She made a lot of really good movies in this era. And then she was at Warner Brothers, and they picked her up for Babyface. And this movie is kind of insane in some ways. It is very much a woman sleeping to the top of the corporate ladder, and the camera goes up floor by floor as she makes her way up to different bosses. And she's trading through lovers. Some of them end up killing themselves. The version we have, so there's several versions of it. The version we have now is very explicit, in terms of the what activities are happening, and then what activities that the characters been up to. I think her name is Nan in this movie. I don't remember for certain.
Barbara Stanwyck?
Yeah.
Lily,
that's it. Yeah, Lily. Yeah. It's subtle. But she's been whored out by her father her entire life. She goes to talk to a trusted mentor, and the mentor starts reading Nietzsche to her. It's you got a beautiful body. Just use it to work your way up to things. And you can tell this is a Warner Brothers movie because Stanwyck's
He's a
favorite.
cobbler too, which is something that
Yeah.
I just can never get over.
Well,
That the advice she gets.
I no,
It's
that's
from
not
a
the that's
cobbler.
not actually the advice he gives, because he's basically saying like you have like a lot of drive, but but he also tells you there's a wrong way to use it. And she gets a letter eventually in the movie where saying like you're using it the wrong way. So I like it's not so much that he tells her to sleep to the top. He's telling her to use her power and allure to get to the top, but he also like specifically like advises her like don't be a whore.
Be a
I
whore,
didn't
but
play
don't
with
be
that.
a really bad whore. I mean,
Yeah.
he's pretty clear about what his expectations are. He's like, you're doing it now. Why not get something out of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, because I saw it more as like you're better than this. Like this is not where you should be. Like you're a very attractive woman. You should get out of this life and like sort of use your power. Like to me, it was more like sort of like you should marry your way up. Like you should find a rich man and do it that way, not sort of like not the way she does it. Like that. That's how I read it.
Mhm.
Because like that in that case, like his letter to her like doesn't make sense when he's basically saying like no, you're wrong for doing it this way, and like that if that was what he told her to do, it'd be pretty hypocritical for him to go like, oh yeah, no, you're doing exactly what I told you to do and you're an asshole because of it.
Well, we'll just leave that for interpretation for each individual viewer.
Well, the future looks very bright. Just as I was leaving the cemetery, Ed Sipple made me a proposition. And last night, the manager of the Star and Garter Burlesque House offered me a job in the chorus to do a strip act.
A strip act?
Yeah, show my shape.
Well, that's a business in itself.
Oh, I guess I ain't much of a businesswoman.
What's going to become of you? It's up to you to decide. If you stay in this town, you are lost.
Where would I go? Paris? I got $4.
That's what makes me mad with you. You're a coward. I mean it. You let life defeat you. You don't fight back.
What chance has a woman got?
More chance than men. A woman, young, beautiful like you, can get anything she wants in the world because you have power over men. But you must use men, not let them use you. You must be a master, not a slave. Look, here. Nietzsche says, all life, no matter how we idealize it, is nothing more nor less than exploitation. That's what I'm telling you. Exploit yourself. Go to some big city where you will find opportunities. Use men. Be strong, defiant. Use men to get the things you want.
Seemed like he was telling her to go whore herself out to me, but
Yeah, but then also this is a Warner's movie. So her best friend is, I believe it's Teresa Harris, who's a black actress, plays her maid.
Yeah.
And they,
Chico.
yeah, Chico, and she sticks by Chico the whole time, even as she's working her way up from rags to the corporate, suite. Chico hangs out with her. She's kind of like her confidant, best friend. And that's another interesting thing about this time is there's a lot more like minority casting. There's a lot more understanding of the diversity of America than what you're going to necessarily see post 1934. Yeah, so that's another really fun aspect of the film.
I mean, you can look at this movie now, and a lot of it is still perfectly shocking to see something as blatant as this. But there is a really interesting message here, in talking about like weaponized sexuality versus whoring for the benefit of the patriarchy, and like what it means to be used or to use for yourself. And in the ways that the movie goes about explaining her ascent, they're in part funny because of the rise up the building, and just the way that it moves from office window to office window, like it's almost like part of the Muppet Show. It is just face value amusing, but at the same time, it still has the power to go, wow. I mean, you're that's horrible and fantastic at the same time, the way that this movie is discussing sexuality.
This is like the era of the gold digger. This is
Yeah.
Warner Brothers, especially, is like, go out,
Mhm.
these tough broads are going to go out and marry these dumb idiots with a lot of money, and that's perfectly right and normal thing to do.
Well, that's
So
I absolutely love this movie until the final 5 minutes when it sort of loses the plot literally. And because like up to that, it's sort of like it's on her side, it's on her side. Well, now she has to be punished. Like she has to,
yeah,
and she has to turn out that, because basically what happens is she marries basically the head of the bank, and he gives her $500,000. And then because of the scandal involving her, like there's this issue with bank fraud, and he gets charged, and he needs $1 million to fight the charges and so he doesn't go to jail. And she has to decide whether or not she's going to give the money back. And it like based on the person we have seen and the movie we have watched, there is no way she's giving that money back. But
yeah.
then she suddenly has a change of heart and gives the money back and finds that he has shot himself, and like gets him to the hospital and makes sure that he lives. And then sort of the coda, which kind of feels like it was added on in the end, like one of those scenes that they
Indeed.
shot just sort of like because they couldn't give the good ending. And they basically said, yeah, he survived, but is now working as a laborer, and they're, broke and happy in this, like small town. And like I was just screaming, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Like I wanted the movie where like he goes to jail, she keeps the money. Like I just that's the movie I wanted. Because
Well,
that's
that's the thing is the movie has three different endings.
Yeah.
I think that's the one you're describing sounds like the one that went out originally in 33, because I know that's where they end up back in her hometown and
Yeah.
end up happy. I don't remember what the other two are though. So one of them's just like him in the ambulance and her holding him, from what I remember. But
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
she has the case with her, and the case opens up, and all the money spills out on the floor because it doesn't matter anymore.
yeah, yeah. There was so much controversy around that film. This was like this time period. There was Redheaded Woman, which was absolutely wild. This is right around the big battle over Scarface, which was just insane. Kim read the censorship files for those. There's like 200 pages of just people going back and forth over what you can and can't show. And so this was really like Warner Brothers, which was always pushing the envelope, coming out strong. Um, and they got slapped hard. Let's just say that. So
Mm.
whatever ending you're seeing that was recorded is still kind of like a padder, happy ending than what they originally planned. Obviously, I don't know if you guys have seen Redheaded Woman. That ends with Jean Harlow basically getting away with everything, getting the kind of happy ending you would expect from Babyface,
Yeah.
where she does work her way up and get all the money. But Babyface is much more gritty and dirty. Redheaded Woman's kind of like a black comedy, but this one is much more. It's shocking when the movie turns Pat at the end, and that's going to be something a lot more common as you go through the 30s, where you very much have to reach this certain point by the end.
Mm-hmm.
Then necessarily it makes sense for the movie you just finished watching.
And honestly, I feel like I would have forgiven that ending if, like, because one of the things I really liked about this movie is that it's only 70 minutes long, and it's very propulsive. Like, it doesn't waste any time anywhere. And so, but I feel like it could have used an extra 10 minutes just to like fully establish the relationship between the guy she marries and sort of the ending. That way it doesn't feel like a total out of nowhere turn for her to decide, oh, I really do love him. Like nothing we have seen up to that point would suggest even a little bit that she loves him.
I don't know how familiar you are with George Brent movies, but that is usually
Yeah.
how that goes.
Yeah.
Like everybody's like, "Oh, I love George Brent" at the end. You're like, "Why?
Yeah.
Have you been watching George Brent through this?" I don't know. He was just
It was funny. I hadn't
mystifying.
seen this in quite a long time, and I remembered more of George Brent. Like, for some reason, I'd inserted him into an extra 10, 15 minutes. So as I'm getting along, and I know the movie's not that long to begin with, I'm like, where's George Brent? What? How does he... And then he shows up, and then he's dead, and then he's like this fulcrum around which her whole reformation happens. And I'm just like, George Brent, you're never supposed to be in these movies. I don't know. He is a guy that I'm never excited to see in a film. And it's not necessarily because he's bad, but he is just such a vanilla presence to be
Yeah.
a leading man that I always want him in lesser roles or less important roles. Like whenever he shows up, it's just bad news.
Yeah, I think he was just very popular with the leading ladies at the time because compared to him, they looked great. Like, who am I
Yeah.
looking at the screen? It's not George Brent, so
He's
obviously,
just there.
yeah.
Well,
I like him in a few movies, but yeah, he's usually pretty bad.
and also like you were never like I think you almost have to have like sort of a milk toast guy like in like opposite Barbara Stanwyck because she was like gonna blow everyone off the screen. Like your eyes are always gonna be looking at her as opposed to the other guy. Like
Well, that's why
I
John Wayne only had like 4 seconds of screen
yeah
time
yeah,
because they're like, oh
and he's
well,
baby John.
he's
Like
almost as pretty.
yeah
Yeah,
yeah yeah.
yeah.
He's what Marion Morrison. He's not John Wayne in that scene.
Oh, hello, Jimmy.
Listen, babyface, how about having dinner tonight? I got 2 tickets for Vanities.
Oh, I'd love to, but I can't tonight.
Oh, I never see you anymore.
I never see anybody anymore. I'm working so hard.
Gee, but
I'm sorry. I have to go to bed early every night. Excuse me, will you?
You don't know you're out till they stop counting. Wake up, kid. Babyface is moving out of your class.
Like he definitely does not feel like but he does give the movie its title because he's the one who calls her babyface. So
Yeah.
I was going to say when Danny was sort of trying to remember Teresa Harris's name, I was like looking on IMDb because I always have it in front of me when we do this, and I was like, oh my god, when I saw her photo because she has like one scene in Cat People where she plays a waitress. And
Oh.
I honestly, because I was so impressed with her that to this day, like when I think of Cat People, I think of that movie with the really cool waitress, like as opposed to the vaunted Val Lewton and Jacques Tourneur classic. To me, it's the movie where Teresa Harris steals one scene. But yeah, no, there's a really great YouTube channel called Be Kind Rewind that literally just like 2 weeks before we started planning this released like a 2.5 hour retrospective on Barbara Stanwyck. And watching that before I watched this really sort of like helped like some because she's one of those things where like I understand that I'm a bad person because I will adore a problematic person, like if they just give me what I want on screen. Because in real life, I would have hated Barbara Stanwyck. She was not what I would call a good person. But in terms of on screen, and it was Richard Dwyer's quote that I hadn't heard before, but which appears in this doc, and that's that when I see Barbara Stanwyck, I know women are strong. And like as someone who like really values like who basically watches movies more to watch strong women than anything else, I think that's why Barbara Stanwyck like always resonated for me so much. And like not for nothing, like she's like gorgeous in this, but like I still consider like the scene with her and Henry Fonda in Our Lady Eve to be the single sexiest scene in film history. And like all she's doing is just like has this look on her face as she's seducing him, and it's like, wow, this is why this woman was the movie star she was.
Yeah, Stanwyck is super special, and like I said, she made a lot of really great, very like racy movies around this time too. I absolutely adore her. We dedicated our book to her because she made so many great. I think she's in her book like 20 times.
Yeah.
Ladies, they talk about other stuff like that. So. Just a fantastic presence.
I almost picked Night Nurse instead of Babyface.
Oh. Yeah, I've introduced that once in Tokyo and introduced that in New Jersey as well. And that one like kills every time you see it with a crowd because it's just people getting undressed, Barbara Stanwyck beating the crap out of men, and just like Clark Gable shows up as the villain, and you're like, what the. And then Joan Blondell is just tossing out wisecracks left and right. It's kind of the ideal film if you boil them all down. So, yeah.
So I will be watching it after this, but I still feel good about picking Babyface because this like I sort of posted on Blue Sky my sort of like if I was still doing Letterboxd, like this would be my 4.5 out of 5 with the 0.5 just being docked because of the shitty ending.
Yeah.
In my notes, I did write that in this movie, Barbara Stanwyck has the all-time come hither face. She's got like three three cuts to her where she's just got her head tilted. She's reclining in a chair, sort of like leaning back, and it's like that's it right there. There's no other competition. It's just those three shots.
So now we move on to the earliest of the films that we watched for this, and the only one that didn't work for me.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to be the defender of this one, I think.
Don't spoil it, because I'm somewhere in between, but I can't reconcile the two halves of what I think about this movie. So this is Sign of the Cross from 1932, directed by Cecil B. DeMille. And again, I took a quote from your book because it is the best thing I've ever seen written about Cecil B. DeMille. There's a sort of genius hucksterism underwritten by the audacity of DeMille's pictures, and that is exactly what is happening on screen.
Eternal Rome, in the flaming nights when the murderous tyrant Nero had it burned to the ground, in the midst of the mad revels of his disreputable favorites, with Claudette Colbert as the Empress Poppaea, whose loveliness was matched only by her ruthlessness. Frederick March as the prefect of Rome, torn between the faith and beauty of a Christian girl and the luxurious beauty of Poppaea. You will see the amazingly lavish spectacles that only the master hand of DeMille could create, the pomp and splendor of Nero's court, the bloodthirsty pageantry of the great Colosseum, with hordes of gladiators dueling to the death, the struggle between the birth of Christianity and the pagan determination to stamp it out, with Christian martyrs torn by the beasts of the jungle before the inhuman beasts of Rome.
Well, the way I described this on Blue Sky was sort of, imagine the most like anodyne, like conservative evangelical Christian like church play that in between would occasionally show snippets of scenes shot at the local sex dungeon. And it's sort of like I just felt like be one or the other. I know which one I wanted it to be, and it kept being more of the other, and that's where I started losing. Every time Claudette Colbert is on screen, this movie is amazing, and I love it with all of my heart. But there's a lot of this movie where she's not on screen.
To the fact, but Claudette Colbert and Charles Lawton, when those two people are on the screen, it's one of the best movies I have ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that DeMille gets caught up in having to portray these very like staid love stories. Like the one with Frederick March here is just very dull. Like you get it, like it makes sense. But that's what's so interesting about the film as well. I know
if I cared even a little bit about either of them, like that would help a lot.
Yeah, and a lot of the movie is about like early Christian persecution, and if you're not invested into that idea very much, it kind of loses some of it. I mean, DeMille was making these films. Like this was his big comeback film after he'd had a string of failures. He left Paramount for a little while. He made Madam Satan, which is also in the book, which is insane. But he had very strong moral values, but also this idea that you had to really like show the sin as well to show the morals. So here you have a lot of those scenes where you're talking about religion and faith and, you know, what that means, intercut with scenes of Claudette Colbert's nipples and the whole Colosseum bits where they're just people getting murdered left and right, bestiality implied. So it's a very like, it can be very boring at parts, and then you go into a lesbian dance for a while, and then it gets boring again, and then it's still like conceptually it's very interesting to me. And the exciting parts are very exciting, but I can definitely see why. Yeah,
it made me think of almost like the Kroger Bab era of exploitations of like Mom and Dad, where like they basically like showed a pregnancy, like showed a woman having a baby specifically so men could see a vagina on screen. Like it's sort of like we're adding like sort of like you have to show the sin to like show the salvation, but like people want to see the sin. Like there are more people who went to see the sign of the cross to see the sin than they came to see the salvation. So it starts feeling like medicine. Like this is what you have to take in order to like get the to enjoy the good stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's
also
DeMille. Like I think he wants that. He definitely wants both to happen. It's not like a specific recipe for him. I just think he can't help himself. There's this idea. He's got this idea about spectacle throughout his films, and it's not one thing. It's not. I mean, it's scope for sure, but it's also like how Claudette Colbert looks, setting up this basically it's a set piece to show off the ass milk bath. Like it's like the making of the milk, and then like, oh, what's going on? You've got this lead in to this lurid scene. He takes great pride in crafting this type of spectacle. And it's not, and like I was commenting on when I was making my notes, I'm like, he's trying to see how many centurions fit on screen here, or like just ideas like that about what cinema is in 1932. Yeah. And I think that's really interesting. Like that's why I watch a DeMille film now is to see his idea of spectacle.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And that's really, this kind of kicks off the beginning of the golden age of the DeMille film too. You're moving from past his silent epics and his weird early 30s comedies to this more like doing the Crusades, these big epics. And I guess to an extent it's more like intellectual enjoyment of a film to a degree. It's like, okay, here's some sin, and then you got to think about like, how is he staging this? How is he putting this together? And it's got a really interesting backstory too, just with, he had to use his own money to help fund part of this film. Paramount was just, losing money left and right during the Depression. So all in all, I think it's got a lot of things in it that you're not going to see in other movies from this era. Even if
got a lot of things.
Yeah. But that's, we talk about this time of all these battles for censorship. DeMille's gambit was, they're not going to censor this stuff because it's about religion. Like, they're going to, the smart people will say, oh, you're just showing this for titillation. It's like, yeah, but I'm showing them that it's wrong. And that was his gambit, and that worked to an extent. So more so than obviously for Babyface and a lot of these other movies. So, and he would continue doing that.
I will say that like this is the oldest film we watched, and it does feel it. Like, even more than Ecstasy, to me, I felt sort of like signs of like the silent era and some of like the transitions and the shot choices and some of the editing.
Well, there was more static camera and moving in and out of a static camera shot than the other ones. Yeah.
And I feel like that might be more DeMille than necessarily like 32, 33. Just because he was really limited on budget. I'm sure if you panned past the next part of the Coliseum, it would just be like a girder or something. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But, he spent a ton of money on it. You can see every dime on screen. There's obviously nothing left off. It looks big. It looks magnificent. You can see why it would draw people in.
I need to go through some of my notes for this movie because this is... I had not seen this or Ecstasy. And when I started watching this... I just couldn't help myself, and I just kind of did stream of consciousness notes based on what I was thinking, and some of them... my first note is Claudette's bangs in this movie were giving me Lydia Dietz vibes. There's a scene where they're perfectly like placed just so that they almost look spiky.
I will say I do think I like Claudette more with the longer hair than the shorter haircuts that she usually had in her movies.
So she did a film with another film with DeMille, Cleopatra, which is 34, which is just past the cutoff, but it's still very scandalous and it's a lot of fun. Basically, it's envisioned Caesar as like a businessman, which is a very 1930s kind of concept, and it really kind of rolls with it. So that's a fun. Warren Williams plays Caesar, so it's a great movie.
It's the better Cleopatra.
Yeah, it's not like 20 hours long, so yeah.
I will say, like, I've never seen the Ten Commandments, And after watching Sign of the Cross, I probably wouldn't, because the Sign of the Cross felt like a 4-hour movie to me instead of a 2-hour movie. So I think that would make the Ten Commandments feel like an 8-hour movie. So I'm probably gonna at least Cleopatra, because I watched it for this show, but I watched that one like a miniseries, and if you watch it like by hour, it actually breaks down like a television show. So like if anybody ever feels like they want to watch Cleopatra, that's the way to do it.
I'll remember that. My daughter, I was mentioning it before, she got really into the TCM podcast, and they did the one.
The one on Cleopatra is great. Yeah,
it's fantastic. And I let her listen to it. She's like, "I really got to watch this movie." I'm like, "I mean, if you want."
The podcast is better.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so my last note section here that I have to get through, and this might wear on, but I think that's really in spirit of the movie, is my notes for the entire Colosseum segment. Now, again, this is a stream of consciousness, just me typing shit as it occurs to me while I'm watching. So it starts with elephant with the dude dangling from his mouth. What? Erotic carnage face. We're watching the crowd. Crocodiles and naked girl with carefully placed floral arrangements. Ooh, a bear. No, not the bear, because the bear then gets stabbed. Gorilla suit with another girl with carefully placed floral arrangements. Rome has grown bored. Bring on the midget warriors. Wait, did he just get beheaded? Are they cheering for or against the little people? Claudette has a derp face. Oop, little guy got gored and presented to the heavens. This is the part where I was like, did you not see enough goring?
I will add, I was trying to figure out if we were supposed to believe that, like, because the makeup job on the little people is terrible. Like, most blackface in this era is, but a lot of it is especially egregious. And it's like, are they trying to suggest that maybe, like, Nero cheaped out and just found a bunch of local little people and slapped this, like, terrible makeup on them?
Made them,
like, I was actually trying to justify like sort of the terrible racism of the movie by making it
with this Nero, I think that might make sense. I think that might fly.
Yeah. Because there's literally one shot where one of them, like, you can see that his legs are white. Like, everything above, like, his legs.
Yeah. And then my last note just says in all caps, this is the entire second part of the film. We have part one, which is what, like 100? No, it was at least 80 minutes long.
I've never been more grateful for an intermission sign.
Yeah.
Even though the intermission only lasts 5 minutes on the Blu-ray I watch, I was still grateful. Like, okay, instead of 126 minutes, it's 121 minutes, because I can feel justified like fast forwarding past the intermission part.
Also, I did want to Frederick March is not a bad actor.
No,
I find him often quite good. What was he doing with this movie?
It was just a terrible script. I
think it's I think it's when he had to do that switch from like being just like a amoral baddie to being good. I don't think the script did him a lot of favors.
He wasn't good as the amoral baddie. Like, he never sold baddie, and then never sold goody either. He was always like kind of bored.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. This is a year after he won like Best Actor too, so I don't know, man.
Just like above all the other people in there, like Claudette Colbert and Lawton were just embracing all of the purple dialogue and leaning into some of that stuff. And I don't like Alyssa Landy, but she does what she does. And then there's Frederick March just kind of walking through like, oh, hey, is this happening? I guess I don't know. It was just a strange component in the center of the film.
Well, it's like I don't care about Alyssa Landy because she's boring, and I don't care about Frederick March because he's an asshole and he's an asshole to everyone. It was a case of like, you know, if he was like, he's even an asshole to her. Like when like he constantly telling her how much he loves her, but it's just because she's hot. It's not because he actually like cares about her as a person.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like I got the feeling that the only reason he cast Alyssa Landy was because he could backlight her blonde hair.
Yeah,
Like that
100%.
felt like her main reason for existing in this film.
Hmm.
There's a bunch of halo shots.
Yeah,
We had to get those in there.
Yeah, speaking of like the Passion of Joan of Arc, like she does get some like Falconetti style like suffering shots like gathered throughout the movie.
Oh, have we said enough about Sign of the Cross? I'm not sure. We didn't talk about the dance, but
I mean, it's something.
It is something, and I really enjoyed March's face during that scene. They kept cutting to him, and I couldn't tell what he was supposed to be expressing, because then he's mad about it afterwards, and I'm like, he kind of looked like he was really into it a minute ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a movie that has like really good stills. Like if you were trying to sell that movie to people, you could get them in the theater in 1932.
That's why I owned it on Blu-ray, which is the reason why I suggested this. Like I've had this for a while. I might as well finally watch it. But I'd only bought it because I heard it was like, oh, it has some really like sort of like pre-code stuff in it. It's really pre-code. So, and it does. It's just you have to suffer through a lot of post pre-code stuff in it.
I watched it on Tubi with commercials.
I had the DVD in my DVD player for like several years. So, yeah. Not that I was rewatching it, it's just that I just didn't use that DVD player. That was the story.
I was thinking it was more of like a CD stuck in the car stereo situation where that's the only
much
one
closer to that.
watch.
Yeah.
It was in my PlayStation 3 when I already had a PS5. Let's put it that way.
All
ready
right.
for trivia?
That pause means that it's time for trivia.
Stand by. Going to air.
Stand by, Phil.
5,
Stand by music.
4,
Stand by now.
3, 2, 1.
And fade up.
Cue the intro song.
Trivia.
That's not Public Enemy. All right.
Trivia never meant shit to me.
That's not Public Enemy either. Number 1. Barbara Stanwyck's mother, Kitty, was a Scotch-Irish Canadian from Sydney, Nova Scotia. Actor George Cleveland also hails from the same very not down under Sydney. George Cleveland famously played Gramps on what CBS television show?
CBS television, my only weakness.
Was that My Three Sons?
1950s.
The Munsters?
No, that would have been 60s.
All right.
1950s. The Goldbergs? Make Room for Daddy? What's the one with the other dad one? Oh, yeah, no, not sure.
It's a titular character, the name of the show.
Like I Love Lucy?
One word is the name of the main character.
Oh, Jesus, dude.
It's a dog.
Oh, Lassie.
Now,
I probably still wouldn't have gotten that.
Technically, I'll say technically Lassie, I think there's been a Lassie show for pretty much every decade for maybe like 50 decades. So that 1950 clue wasn't a great clue.
Well, he was on in the 50s. Why was George Cleveland written off Lassie during season 4?
Well, I assume it's not because he died, because that would be too obvious. So
I got bit by the dog, right?
He got bit by the dog didn't like him.
No, he died.
Okay.
He fell in the
Yeah,
well.
I was trying to get you to think too hard on that one, and it worked.
Okay.
We'll just move on. Now, here's the big one. How many times did George Cleveland play a character named Gramps?
6.
Yeah, I'll say 6.
6 is correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Name any one of the 5 movies.
No. No clue.
When the Lights Go On Again, 1944, he played Gramps Benson. In A Date with Judy, 1948, he played just Gramps.
That was the movie I was trying to think of earlier when I was talking about bad movies.
Oh no!
Shit. All comes together. Okay. Yeah, that movie sucks. All right, keep going.
The WAC, the WAC from Walla Walla, he plays Gramps Canova. In Racing Blood, 1954, he plays just Gramps again. And then he plays Gramps in an episode of the Dick Tracy serial.
Oh. That is random. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in
Can't believe
any
it was
of
A Date with Judy. That's so funny. All right.
More than you ever need to know about George Cleveland. Which 2 lead actresses featured in our films tonight appeared in a Thin Man movie?
Elisa Landy is in After the Thin Man. And is Marina Sullivan in one?
Marina Sullivan was in the first one. Yeah, she's in the 34 one.
Yep. Next, as we get on this Maureen O'Sullivan rabbit hole, Maureen O'Sullivan appeared with her daughter in what movie that I'm going to talk about on a planned but still unrecorded anniversary Cinema Shame episode? Yes, it's Hannah and Her Sisters.
The first, the first thing I think of when I hear Marina Sullivan isn't Tarzan and the movies. It's Mia Farrow's mom.
Now, if you didn't know me, what movie would I say is my favorite from that year? So, like, if I'm just meeting you,
from 1986, Living Daylights.
See, my issue is I can never remember what date movies came out. So I can name a bunch of 80 movies, but there's only like a 20% chance that they actually came out in 1986 and not 1985 or 1987.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's funny because I'm like, I know this is from 1934 versus 37. But like, I don't know, is Carter president? I can't tell. Yeah.
I mean, if I had information that sticks in your brain.
Yeah.
So 1986, knowing you.
So what would I say is my favorite versus the next question, which is what is
your actual favorite?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Is it Living Daylights? That'd be my guess. That's no.
No, I don't think you would say something. Yeah.
I wouldn't say. Yeah, I wouldn't say that to someone I just met.
Yeah.
You gotta work up to that. Yeah.
I'm a Timothy Dalton apologist, by the way.
Nothing to apologize for.
No, I agree. But that is the general sentiment in the fan base.
But License to Kill is my favorite Dalton. I don't like Living Daylights that much.
Yeah. So. No, because it's a canon movie. We've already discussed this.
I was just watching all the American Ninja movies, so that's good.
Yeah.
Well, American Ninja 2 is badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. I surprisingly liked 4 a lot. I was kind of shocked. It's kind of like the movie's premise is like, what if Osama bin Laden had a ninja army? And you're like, okay.
It's nuts. 4 is just nuts.
Yeah, we're like halfway through. We want a different leading guy. This is the first leading guy. We're going to go back to him for a while and see if this works out better for us. Yeah.
So yeah, I give us some hints.
I rewatched it. That's 88. Come on. I just watched it at TCM. Was it last year or the year before? They all run together now, but it was one of the last 2 years.
That's a Danny only
director. The director just passed away last year.
You have no idea.
Oh, Blue Velvet.
Blue Velvet's
80s. I always think that's later. Okay.
So what is actually my favorite movie from 1986?
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
It's like probably adjacent in that neighborhood, like comedy-wise, but definitely much worse.
Okay. Like True Stories?
And
Police
a sequel.
Academy?
Which one?
Police Academy 2.
It's Police Academy 3. Come on.
Police Academy 3?
Citizens on Patrol?
Back in training.
Back in training.
Oh, gee, that's even worse. Okay.
The phone's got my quarter and the operator won't give it to me back.
I'll handle this, ma'am. Operator?
Yes.
This is Sergeant Tackleberry.
So?
Would you please relinquish this lady's quarter?
I told her we'll send her a refund.
You'll pay her now!
I'm sorry, sir. Would you like to speak to us?
Stand back, ma'am. Can you identify your quarter, ma'am?
Sergeant Hooks, we got a 1048.
It is not worse than Citizens on Patrol. I refuse.
It really only lost their touch when they went to Miami without Gutenberg. I mean,
yes. I still like 5 though. I'll watch it. Okay, off to Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr's 4th marriage was to German swing king Teddy Stauffer. Before Lamarr, Teddy Stauffer had been married to this early scream queen made famous by Howard Hughes.
Oh, Howard Hughes. It's not
at the age
Fay
of 16.
Wray. Yeah, it's not Fay Wray.
Jean Harlow? No, not Jean Harlow.
Yeah, I got no idea, man.
Faith
O'Dumberg?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is her highest rated screen credit on Letterboxd?
Faith Dummerug or
This Island
yeah.
Earth?
No.
But I'm making you lose on a technicality.
Okay. What is it?
Mystery Science Theater movie?
Mystery Science Theater.
Okay.
Kelly Garner played Faith Domergue in Martin Scorsese's The Aviator. What other famous screen actress did Kelly Garner portray in a Canadian-filmed Lifetime TV series?
Thelma Todd. Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn Monroe.
All right. Angela, we know Angela. She posts about like all these old TV movies that were bad, and I know it sounds familiar, like I was connecting it, but yeah.
New topic. I share a day of birth with what famous actress that appeared in one of our 4 films?
Claudette Colbert.
Claudette Colbert. Which was Claudette Colbert's good side?
Oh.
We have a 50-50 shot.
Oh, I'm trying to think, because I know the big scene in Smiling Lieutenant was her fight with Miriam Hopkins. They both had the same good side. And
Wait,
Harris
I literally
Hopkins
took a screenshot of Sign of the Cross and posted on Blue Sky, but I'm not. I can't tell it because she's facing the camera if that would be her right side or her left side. Because I can see it perfectly, but I'm still guessing because I'm not sure because of the way the camera works which side it actually is.
I want to say left.
Left is right.
Yeah.
Or left is correct.
Okay, that's better. Yeah.
What did some cameramen call the right side of her face?
The dark side of the moon?
The dark side of the moon. Colbert first declared her retirement from acting after which film?
It happened one night.
1927's For the Love of Mike.
For the Love of Mike.
Oh, okay.
Also directed by Frank Capra. Consequently, after their relationship soured on For the Love of Mike, Colbert was Capra's last choice for Ellie Andrews in It Happened One Night. 7 other actresses turned him down. Name one.
Barbara Stanwyck.
No.
Good guess.
Here's
Betty
your clue.
Davis.
Here's your clue. I confuse this actress's name with an actress that we talked about too tonight.
Oh, that's a great one.
I say this name when I mean the other name. They sound very similar.
Fath Domog?
I'm just trying to think of, because I know I've written about this, but it's been such a long time. I feel like it had to be someone from MGM. Definitely wasn't like Garbo.
You just mentioned
Carlo?
one of them.
It did? Okay.
Talking about Claudette Colbert's side of her face.
Yeah, I thought it was Miriam Hopkins, but I
Miriam
wasn't
Hopkins.
like, yeah, it was what was coming to my
the
head.
answer to my clue is Margaret Sullivan.
Okay. I always get
And
her
then-
and, yeah.
And
Maureen
then
Sullivan
Constance
was the-
Bennett were the three main ones.
Yeah, Constance Bennett makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
In which abominable sequel does the main character watch it happen one night and then hail a cab? A la Ellie Andrews.
Abominable sequel?
Abominable sequel. Alan
Dr.
probably
Fi-
disagrees
Do-
with me,
Do-
but that's
Do-
up
Dr.
that's up for
I was going to say, is it Dr. Five Strikes Again? Because that's a sequel to the abominable Dr. Fives.
it's not literally abominable,
Okay.
but it is literally abominable.
So you could have. So what we're saying is you could have wrote terrible, but decided to get fancy with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because terrible may not have been good enough for this one.
I don't know. Now I'm just imagining Michael Myers like pulling up a pant leg.
Yeah. Exorcist 2, The Heretic. I'm just trying to think of hated sequels that I love. That's all I'm trying to think of.
Oh, okay. It's more recent than that.
More recent than that. Charlie's Angels Full Throttle.
You're getting closer. The main characters are all women.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sequel. I'm like, I need another hint.
Yeah.
Based on a TV show.
Oh, Sex and the City 2.
Uh-huh.
I haven't seen any of the Sex and the City movies.
Okay. I was thinking because that movie opens with them watching it happen one night in bed and Carrie's complaining about it. And I'm like, what the hell, lady? And then, sorry, okay. That is my biggest gripe with Sex and the City too. Otherwise, perfect film. So,
No, once I heard about how they treated poor Kim Cattrall, I have boycotted that series, even though I love the TV show.
Yeah, the sequel series, the Just Like That, was very interesting in the way that you just realize they really hated those characters all along. And
yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought the first one was tolerable. The second one just felt so mean-spirited to me that it was...
Yeah.
Anyway, I have one more just because I want to mention this movie. The director of Claudette Colbert's best movie worked as costume designer for which of tonight's films? And for that, you need to figure out what Claudette Colbert's best movie is.
I'm guessing you're talking about Mitchell Leeson because he was no.
The only costume designer I noticed in the credits is Or Kelly, and I can't remember I don't think he directed anything.
Danny's on the right path.
So I would say it was Sign of the Cross.
Yes.
Okay, that's not helpful. That was the movie we were talking about.
Well,
what's the question?
No, that is the answer. Yeah.
Which is night films, but you had to figure out what the best movie was.
So what is the best movie? Because I'm not getting the
Midnight. It's Midnight.
Oh, okay. I can't.
Yeah,
that's what I think of that. Even though he didn't direct it, in my head, that's classified as a Billy Wilder movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Midnight. He's credited. It counts. Yeah. And that's the end of my questions for this evening.
Thanks, Danny.
Yeah. No, thank you guys. That was fun.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun watching, just going, even the ones that I hadn't revisited in a long time. It was great just to have a reason to sit down with them. And Alan and I complain about all the time is that we never watch anything fun anymore. So this was nice.
Yeah.
Had hit the hood of C. Eastwood, that well-known meanie who, like Bellini, thought absurd. Soderbergh's claim that famous Harold Ramis was the greatest director in the history of cinema.
You have chosen wise.